Well, Hamas has officially handed over the first 3 hostages to the Red Cross under a ceasefire deal that halted fighting in Gaza after a delayed start. The ceasefire, as agreed to in Qatar, is set to last 42 days. The first phase of the truce in the 15-month-old war between Israel and Hamas took effect following a 3-hour delay during which Israeli forces pounded the Gaza Strip, killing 13 people. That's according to the Palestinian health authorities. For reaction to this development, we're joined by Rina King from South African Jews for Palestine. Rina, thank you very much for your time. And let's begin straight away with looking at this 3-phase deal that was brokered by the US, Egypt and Qatar. It's said to be the last chance for peace in that region. Talk to us about your reaction of what you've seen. Ceasefire is in effect now. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having us on the show. We are feeling relief as we see the end of the most brutal and sustained campaign of collective torture, mass killings and genocide in the modern era. And it was live streamed on our screens, on our phones, where at least 47,000 people have been murdered, and starvation has been used as a weapon of war. There's been wanton destruction where hospitals have been destroyed, whereas 3 Israeli hostages were released and immediately taken to a hospital. There's barely a hospital standing in Gaza, and that has been a directed attack by Israel on the health system in Gaza. So we are feeling relief, and we are feeling complete admiration for the steadfastness of the people of Gaza. It represents one of the most astonishing examples of collective courage in the world. It's as tens of thousands of people from Gaza, maybe hundreds of thousands, make their way back to the north to see their homes in rubble. We just feel for those people. And we know that it's been 77 years of struggle for those people, of oppression. So the lies of Israel has been buried under the rubble of Gaza, because for years people believed that the Palestinians were at fault, and now people can see the oppression that the Palestinians have been suffering for 77 years. Yeah. How 77 years ago Gaza was formed, and it's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with settler colonialism, with people coming to the land where Palestinians lived, and 750,000 people being chased off their lands 77 years ago. And so we're seeing a ceasefire, and we are feeling huge relief.
And one can understand that. I certainly can understand that, and many people do, because, this is a moment that so many have been waiting for, particularly the families on both sides. Obviously, the 3 hostages on the Israeli side that have been released, as well as the 90 prisoners that were also released the early hours of this morning from Israel back into Palestine. But, and there is a big but, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that this war will resume at any time if this ceasefire isn't fully implemented. Obviously there are a couple of outstanding issues in this ceasefire, but are you optimistic? Do you think it will hold? I mean, do you see this extending to a permanent end to the war? Because there have been hopes before which have unfortunately failed.
Well, as you say, Israel has violated the ceasefire in Lebanon hundreds of times, as recorded by the United Nations, where they have killed innocent people in Lebanon subsequent to the ceasefire and subsequent to the agreement. And we've seen that Israel cannot be trusted. We've seen over this time that the lies that Israel has told for 77 years are buried under the rubble of Gaza. and we can see the true nature of Israel and what they do and the oppression that they have meted out to Palestinians, the oppression, the torture, the constant. There have been over 1 million people that have been incarcerated, 1 million Palestinians that have been incarcerated. That's very much more than even in apartheid South Africa as a relative term, because there are only 7 million people in Palestine at the moment. The rest are refugees outside the country. So whether we can, obviously Palestinians do not want the genocide to continue. I think it's crucial South Africa continues with the ICJ case, and it's critical that the international community still puts boycotts, sanctions, and divestment pressure onto Israel, so that Israel is forced, like South Africa was forced, to actually stop the apartheid, stop the oppression, and stop taking over the land from the Palestinian people, because we've seen throughout this time that land has been taken from Palestinians in the West Bank, land has been taken from Syria, land has been taken from Lebanon, and Israel is continuing their imperialist and settler colonial agenda to settle and to steal land throughout the country. So the day after is really when there's justice within the whole region.
Well, certainly
and
it's
Palestinian.
Yeah, we certainly have to wait and see where this all leads to. But I just want to get back to the deal and try and understand, perhaps from you've got an understanding as well. I mean, this exact deal to which the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreed is remarkably similar to a proposal that he basically rallied against for almost a year. What do you make of his sudden about-face? We've got the Trump inauguration that's happening today. We've had him passing comments saying that if this isn't ended, all hell will break loose. You've got Biden on the other side, who needed to leave with some form of ceasefire in place. One can only imagine how much is happening behind the scenes as well.
Well, we don't believe that Biden actually ever wanted a ceasefire, and Biden's legacy is one of genocide. Biden and Blinken have supported this genocide throughout. They have had opportunities to put pressure on Israel, the same as has been put at this point in time, even more than 8 months ago. And we can see, I mean, Reagan put more pressure on Israel than Biden has put, and Biden wanted this to happen. Biden is completely complicit in this genocide. We believe that Trump has stopped it, and that we only hope that there is some justice being discussed, although we are very concerned and we need to keep all eyes on Palestine, as maybe the West Bank has been agreed to, that Trump has agreed to Israel annexing the West Bank. We need to continue our pressure, as I said, an international pressure on Israel to make sure that we are monitoring the situation. We challenge all Muslim countries not to normalize until the day after, and the day after is when there's justice.
Indeed.
Because we do not trust that there is going to be justice for Palestinians after the ceasefire. We have to put pressure on the system over there.
Indeed.
to
Rina
make
King.
sure.
Rina King, I'll have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much for talking to us and weighing in on the discussion. Rina King is the South African Jews for a Free Palestine organization reacting to the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire. Thanks very much for talking to us. Remember, in the next hour, we've got Jonathan Conricus. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he's a former IDF international spokesperson. So we'll be able to get a reaction from that side in terms of that Israeli-Hamas ceasefire as well.